Immediately after the election, and I think wisely so, Governor Patrick and our administration said, if you remember, immediately after the election, there was talk of an $800 billion stimulus package, and a lot of that money being discretionary money. And so, but as soon as that word got out, we announced about the 8 different task forces within state government to try to cast as broad a net as possible and develop an inventory of potential projects that could be done, because we wanted to be fully prepared for whatever final piece of legislation was prepared. As the legislation moved its way through the process, however, the idea that there was going to be $800 billion in discretionary money for city leaders and state leaders to use quickly dissipated. How that money was going to be used, it became much more prescriptive. About half of it for tax relief to people, and then some of the transportation money was assigned to pre-existing federal funding formulas, Chapter 90. On the education side, the money, as Pat had noticed, was following Title I funding formulas, which will be beneficial to a city like Fall River. IDEA, the special ed money. So, at the end of the day, there's not anywhere near as much discretionary money as we thought. That being said, the general criteria on that discretionary money is projects that are ready to go in 180 days, and projects that can be completed in more or less within 2 years, and projects that will create jobs. And so because we have that inventory of projects, because we've done these bond bills, we believe that we'll be able to get a lot of these projects out in a timely way. And I can assure you in our conversations with the federal delegation, on conference calls, meetings that I've been down in Washington, or with the governor's been down, Congressman McGovern and Congressman Frank have been clear that they want to make sure that all regions of the state benefit from this economic stimulus package as it relates to infrastructure and other things. And that is not a theory that's foreign to the governor or myself. We want to make sure that all regions benefit from that. So I just give you one insight, and Bob Correa, I know he was aggressive in submitting projects, but we asked and solicited. I was the chair of the Municipal Facilities Task Force, and again, we weren't clear what the actual legislation was going to say as it relates to this federal stimulus package. So we went out, we sent an email out to all the mayors, town managers, and town administrators and said, listen, there may be money coming for municipalities. We're being told 180 shovel in the ground in 180 days, completed more or less within 2 years, and can create jobs. Do you have any projects on your books like that? We had 320 communities respond with over 4,200 responses, totaling $15 billion. I think it speaks to a lot of the deferred maintenance that's in and out around the state. That fact that the federal government and state government, to some degree over the years, has not been investing in a strategic way and with our cities and towns and in some of our own infrastructure. And that's why I call it the blocking and tackling of government. You know, everyone, we learned in the Super Bowl a year or so ago that you can have the best quarterback in the world like Tom Brady, but if you don't have the blocking taking place up front, you're not going to be successful. I think government's no different. You're not paying attention to the fundamentals, your road, your bridge, your water infrastructure, your parks, all of these types of things, public safety facilities over time, they catch up and are a real cost to you. And just share with some of the figures, because I know one of the things that's on people's mind is the debate about transportation reform in Massachusetts. But let me just give you some of the figures that are out there. A bipartisan Transportation Finance Commission 2 years ago, the chair of which was appointed by Governor Romney, said that to get our existing road, rail, and bridge infrastructure in Massachusetts up to a state of good repair, it's between $15 and $19 billion. That doesn't include any expansion projects, including rail to the South Coast. So we've got that, and that's 2 years old. We've inherited, the governor and I have inherited a turnpike that's $2.5 billion in debt, an MBTA, when you include principal and interest, which is $8 billion in debt. So there aren't any easy answers, and the transportation reform package that we did file the other day looks to consolidate a number of agencies, cut jobs, but at the end of the day, that's not going to allow us to meet the shortfall, the gap that we have. And so we are going to bring reform and consolidation, but we have to be honest with people, because I don't think that some of the predecessors in the corner office were fully honest with the people of the state, saying to all of us, we can have it all and it's even better, we don't have to pay for it. What happened is they papered over and pushed off tough decisions, which is why this Ponzi scheme at the Turnpike Authority has got us on the brink of bankruptcy or even receivership if we fail on these bonds. And the good news, I think, is that we've got now a consensus among the House leadership and the Senate leadership that we are going to try to address this issue. There may be some very different opinions as to how we get there. I think there's agreement on reform and consolidation, whether it be pension and consolidating Mass Highway and the Turnpike into one entity. There's some agreement on those things, but there's some different ideas on how do we pay for some of these things. And at the end of the day, the process is about building consensus and trying to find a middle ground, and the governor and I are anxious to do that, but we believe that before we have any revenue, whether it's tolls or gas tax, reform is going to be met with right away. So, but I do hope that in the next several months we can finally have this debate. It's not one that anyone enjoys. There are tough decisions involved, but the longer we put it off, we just hand off responsibility, and we are going to try to be responsible and honest with people on this issue.